Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of the Triple Option. Listen, it's going to be a little bit of a different episode of the Triple Option this week. We were going to show you just the film of Florida State's epic evisceration of Clemson from last weekend, but the film was far too graphic, far too brutal, far too disturbing. We don't want to get any explicit ratings on the channel, so we're actually just going to jump into a preview of the Virginia game coming up. All jokes aside, weird weekend for Florida State football. The game gets canceled. We find out that Wuhan Dabo and the COVID Tigers, they decided to sneak a symptomatic player into Florida State, travel with the team before the test result came back, and then go on one of the worst decided PR campaigns to blame it on Florida State that the game got canceled. Now listen, Dabo Swinney does not have many weak spots in his game, but his PR sucks. He's so bad. Every time he says something, it's dumber than the last. If as a coach, he's LaMarcus Joyner, but as his own PR person, he is Corey Mangum. So Adam and Kev, before we go on to the Broncos, the Bronco Cavaliers, Adam. What the heck happened this weekend, brother?
Dabo, really? I mean, he must have known they were going to be up 40 after the first quarter, so he really needed that backup lineman in there. I mean, like, what the hell? Come on,
what
bro.
A clown, right?
He's just a moron. I don't understand, like, what he's thinking. And, so I guess the rumor is that if they lose this game, they're at risk of not making the ACC title game. I don't know how valid that is. I don't know. I've seen it thrown out there some, but so, dude, he is banging his head on the wall right now. Like, I can't believe they quit on us. They were scared. Like, Florida State needs money more than anybody right now in college football. I'm sure they were really turning that butt whipping down. Okay, like, I don't know, Dabo, guys, nice guy, I bet, but he's an idiot.
At this point, Florida State has no shame. We are the panhandler under the bridge with our tin cup begging for like coins. And I love that the Clemson people's thing was Florida State's afraid of being embarrassed on a national stage. We had a very chubby real estate professor reading The Great Gatsby during the middle of the third quarter a couple of years ago. There's nothing that would have happened on Saturday that would have been worse than that. And we needs the cash. Kevin, as somebody who clearly doesn't need the cash, Moneybag Kev over here, what do you think?
Yeah, I just get paid tons of money to be a grad student here.
That's right. It's the most lucrative position.
Florida State treats me right, Shoot, there's no words, man. Like, it is what it is. I wanted to watch college football. I didn't get to watch college football. And then I got to see a bunch of grown men that make millions of dollars act like idiots. So, it was a win-loss of a weekend for me.
None of which were from Florida State's side, though, surprisingly. Like, they've been quiet, but I think it's been beneficial that they were quiet because there's enough dumb stuff getting said. Like, they are better leaving that to the Clemson side of things, in my opinion.
They can't believe their luck. He says something so bad. Everything. Like, it's great. It's great. It's like playing he's the Florida State defense of, like, coach speak.
And Florida State's a place that puts their foot in their mouth, so it's, like, refreshing to be on the other side. People online are like, oh, wow, I agree with Florida State for the first time, like, ever.
The whole embarrassed card, like, have they seen our games this year? Like, we've been embarrassed every week.
We're pretty embarrassed.
We just got smoked by NC State. Like, come on, man. We're all good getting our butts whipped by Clemson.
I agree. So, I can't wait. The last thing I want Dabo to keep saying Dabo things, just horrible Dabo things. I want the eventual tide to turn. I don't think it's going to. He said so much terrible stuff already this offseason, but I want Dabo to keep stabbing himself like in the chest, and then I want John Thrasher to come over the top and just behead him like Ned Stark, Game of Thrones style, with like one mature yet brutal verbal takedown. But speaking of takedowns, you guys said I talked too much on the last one, so let's get right into the preview. Virginia. Kevin, what is your take on the 4-4 Virginia Cavaliers? They're a team with wins over Louisville, North Carolina, Duke, and Abilene Christian. They're actually on a 3-game winning streak. What's your take on the Cavaliers?
So the Cavaliers are are coached by Bronco Mendenhall, and when you play a team that's coached by a defensive head coach, what you tend to see is just a solid team. And so that's kind of what you get. It's what you got out of Pitt. And it's a similar look of just their defense is where they want to put their money at. But this year, luckily for the Cavaliers, and even last year with a different quarterback, but their quarterback Brennan Armstrong is really the strength of the team, and he can do it all. He can throw, he can run, and I think he's going to have a pretty good day this next Saturday.
As per usual, as is tradition against the Florida State defense. Adam, what scares you the most about the Cavaliers, and what are Florida State's biggest areas of opportunity for attack against them?
Well, I don't consider them to be a very athletic defense, so I do think that Florida State can win some space race against Virginia's defense, especially against their linebacker core. I think Jordan Travis could have a good day if they can get him schemed up in some run game stuff. And just when he drops back, taking off running, I saw, I was watching the Louisville film and saw Malik Cunningham being able to do a lot of stuff, and they were able to get him schemed up in space against those linebackers, and he had a pretty good day against them. So I think that what scares me the most is their offense. I mean, they're pretty dynamic. It's a different scheme. They do a lot of different crazy stuff with their run game. They put a running back here. I don't know if he's a running back or a wide receiver and a quarterback sometimes, let him run. The Armstrong kid is tough. I don't think he's great pushing the ball vertically down the field, but they do so much with moving guys around, with like motion and stuff like that to create some horizontal seams for him to throw in, which helps. They scheme a lot of stuff open for him towards his strengths. And then sometimes he just drops back and takes off and run. And he's really a dual threat. Like he's a pretty dynamic kid. I don't consider him to be the greatest runner, but I think we would take him. He's like a upgraded throwing version of Jordan Travis, in my opinion.
Okay.
Pretty quick, pretty fast, throws good enough, but throws better than what Jordan does.
I wouldn't say that he's too far off from a Chubba.
Yeah, I think it's probably not bad. I mean, there's not, it's not a kid anybody's heard a lot about because they had a veteran quarterback last year. But once they found him and found his comfort zone and found kind of their running game, they've really taken off offensively. And then the biggest thing with Bronco is the dude he puts together disciplined teams. They do their jobs over position by position, week in, week out. Like they're just consistent, and that's tough to beat. It really is. It's tough, especially for a young team like Florida State. So this is going to be an interesting matchup.
All right, let's see what we got on the old film ski. Let's take a look at the screen.
Yeah,
let's dive right in.
So I guess we can start with their offense, right?
Yeah, that's where it's going to be.
All right.
Yeah, so they use the motion here, or it's not motion. They swing this back out. They do this a lot. They'll do it with motion, but they're swinging the back out wide, trying to create like some seams there for the quarterback to throw in. They're putting guys in conflict. They're putting the flat defender in conflict. Safeties trying to pull different players, or to pull the if they're seeing cover two, that kind of stuff. Get the corner to squat. So here you're going to get backers flowing with the swing route, and it's going to get the tight end. He's going to be wide open down the seam. They're going to clear out with these other guys, and they're really just going to throw into that tight end, and he gets down the one. I think he ends up fumbling here, but they do a lot of this stuff. They really play with these routes and play with space and try to stretch you so wide that it creates throwing lanes for Armstrong, because I don't think pushing the ball down the field is a strength for him, but I think that they scheme it up for him that it ends up being open and he has success.
So is there like a lot of manipulation of like the second level, just like you said with the route combinations and some of the motions and things like that? Like, is Virginia a team out of the ones that we faced that's really going to take advantage of a linebacking unit that doesn't know what they're doing about 80% of the time?
Yeah, they're gonna make those throws as easy as possible, and they run a lot to set up the pass. So here's another example: is within the same drive, and it looks the same. You have this same. They do a pre-step motion to kind of get the running back on the seam. This time they're gonna hit this outside vertical. The defense is playing cover 2, so that means that this this corner is going to stay in the flats. Well, he'll kind of expand back to about 10 yards. And this safety's got a deep half of the field. And so he just kind of hits the receiver in that little gap. So these are just little things they like to do in the passing game. Their offensive coordinator actually used to work with Mike Leach. He has a air raid background, but
terrifying. That's
but he's definitely running
don't
it way
divide
more.
the triple option, Adam. Don't divide us.
But here's the thing: like if you're from a defensive standpoint, you have to respect the swing route, because if they throw that, you've got two on two out there. They've got a blocker accounting for every defender, and you're putting the back one-on-one with the safety. So you have to respect that, and when you respect that, then you're throwing the little fade, or we'll call it a fade, throw a little go to the receiver behind him. I mean, they put you in a bind with that stuff. If you widen out, if your backer widens out, if you're running some sort of cover 4 or something like that, and your backer widens out, then they're hitting the seam route down the middle, which is tough. So it is a nice little scheme. They put you in a bind.
Adam, what do we think of? I was, I don't know if I want to say impressed, but there was a sense of optimism by the way that Florida State's defensive line played in their last game, even with losing like a Marvin Wilson. How's Virginia's offensive line like compared to our defensive line?
Yeah, I mean they're okay. I wouldn't. They're not above average or anything like that. I mean, they're not a great line, but Virginia's going to do enough stuff that they're going to make it difficult for you. So I mean, they're going to put 2 tight ends in the game. They're going to put a tight end and 2 backs in the backfield. They do this like funky split back look in the backfield with a H little sniffer in there. It's quirky. It's not anything I've ever seen before. I'm sure it's not like brand new to football or anything like that. And they're gonna run counter Trey with it. They're gonna run ISO or inside zone with it. Like they do a lot of different weird stuff. So I don't think the advantage is their offensive line skill-wise against the D-line, but it's just the amount of stuff that they're able to do, and they do it all pretty soundly and decently, that it creates issues for you, because you're having to expect a lot of different things coming at you from a lot of different angles, and it's hard to know. It's hard to be,
for a lot of
it's hard to be prepared for you. That's a good way to put it. It's hard to be prepared.
Besides, we talked about the quarterback quite a bit. Who are some other guys on the offense, skill position guys, that Florida State fans should be uniquely aware of?
So their running back's decent. He gets a little bit of wear and tear. They like to run the ball, but I kind of wanted to go back and touch a little bit more on what AB was saying, with just how unpredictable they could be. I saw this play on film. They actually like to. They'll play 3 quarterbacks. So they'll play Armstrong and then I forgot the other.
I can't think of his name.
Well, there's 99 and 98. Those are their 2 backup quarterbacks.
Yeah, 98.
They've got a 98 and a 99 at quarterback?
Uh-huh.
Yes.
That scares me. I don't understand that. That doesn't make
any
sense.
And they look the same. They look like the same person. They're basically wildcat quarterbacks. They don't throw the ball very often.
They got a pack of Wildcats? These Taysom Hills all over the place?
Literally. Look, their starting quarterback is up here at wide receiver.
Okay.
He's going to jet motion, get the jet handoff, and then it's going to be a pass. I actually think it's some kind of switch route here. And
bro,
I
this
think
sucks. I don't like trickery. I don't like deception like this.
Out of an unbalanced look with that tight end.
Let me see this run through. Let me see the sorcery.
It's an incompletion. But
I know that sucks because it won't be against us.
Oh no,
I don't like that.
Wide open.
But this is way more normal than you would like to think. Like this is a pretty common occurrence to see stuff like this. They put those backup quarterbacks in all the time. They get funny with the running game, and they're just trying to trick you into being out of position.
Yep.
Well, they don't even try. I mean, we're going to be out of position anyway. Maybe we'll be so out of position that it will scare a disciplined team. Yeah, like, why is he standing there? He shouldn't be there.
No, but it's a good point by Kev. Like they're all over the place, but it all works, and
yep.
It all is going to start and stop with their run game, though. That's really what they started their identity with when they started doing 98, 90, put 98, 99 in the game. Because I believe like the first game of the year, they didn't really have any footing with who their quarterback was going to be. They kind of got comfortable with Armstrong. They got comfortable with 98, 99 coming in the game and running the ball with those guys. And it has all kind of taken off from there as Armstrong has got more comfortable. But you better be – they're going to run the football. They're good at it because they just do so much weird stuff. Like it a little bit reminds me of like Wake Forest. It's not Wake Forest scheme at all, but Wake Forest just does a lot of weird stuff with their run game with that real long ride and decide, and it's funky. It's hard to prepare for. It's triple option like, but it's not triple option. I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
As far as like the running concepts, Kevin, is it a zone scheme like we saw against Louisville? Is there a team with the run game that's like similar that we played this year that Florida State fans can compare it to?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to compare. They do more gap schemes, so you'll see more counters and stuff than something like Louisville or Miami would run. But they're not as like. If you look at Miami or UNC is really the only power-heavy team that we've played, or counter-heavy team.
Well, Notre Dame, right, beat us up with the counter pretty.
That's true.
Pretty
They're probably
routine.
more like Notre Dame than anybody.
Yeah.
They'll get real creative with how many tight ends they have in there. They like to run counter. UNC was really vanilla with their counter, and I think that allowed us to kind of plug up those gaps pretty uniquely for us. But no, there's no one particularly similar that I've seen in the country that runs what they run, because they're just really hard to pinpoint. Lots of different formations, lots of different plays. Like this one I saw watching their film from the Miami game. They do this jet motion again. They like to do jet motion. Then it's just like a kind of speed option out here away from a 2 tight end set. So it's just kind of an odd formation you don't see very often. Mostly because this inside tight end is ineligible, so this guy can't catch a pass. So you kind of don't have to defend him, but the defense is probably not thinking about that at this point in time. And then they go completely away from it in the running game. It's just kind of a weird thing they do.
To the short side of the field, yeah.
Right. They run an outside run to the short side of the field. And they just do this weird stuff. It's hard to pinpoint.
Yep.
It doesn't say
it's funky
in an offensive game where like getting numbers and advantages and gaps is like the norm. That's what you want to scheme. Like that just seems almost like counterintuitive, but that's a 8 or 9 yard gain. Maybe just because it's so weird. I don't know.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that Notre Dame's probably the closest thing that they are, like with a number of things that they want to do. Because Notre Dame will run a little option. They'll run power, counter Trey. They'll run some zone stuff. So, like, they're similar in some of the schemes that they want to do, but there's nobody like them when it comes to just how much they do out of different formations. Like, that's what you're going to get all game long, just funky stuff. And I don't know, like, they don't really have a lot of tells. Like, good luck.
And they don't have a ton of talent either. There's not like anybody that you're watching that you're like, if you look at their Pro Football Focus scores, their quarterback's got like an 86, and their second highest is their backup quarterback who's got like a 75. And you're just like
one of the 98s or whatever, one of the 90 bros.
Yeah, one of the one that plays less.
And they'll do a little tempo, but then they'll get up on tempo, and then they won't snap the ball. Like they're just
you can't get a read on them, right?
No.
Yeah.
They're all over the place offensively, but it all works crazily. I mean, it all works. So I don't get it.
Well, like you said, defense, like ideally you want to react, like be aggressive. You want to play and not think. It sounds like this offense is like forcing defenders to think about everything, which once again, not our strong suit, right?
It almost reminds me of Boise State back in the day. Back when they did a ton of motions, a ton of formations. You never knew where they're going, and then just they would score points on you. They're not as good as those Boise State teams were back then, but
I mean, I think that if you're Florida State, you've got to try to force them to throw the ball down the field. That seems to be their biggest weakness is getting the ball down the field. But again, I mean, you're just so worried about so much different stuff that it's going to be a challenge.
This is a game where man coverage might be a good idea.
Yeah, Armstrong. Well, I don't know because Armstrong can run on you, but Armstrong's the one that's going to beat you, so he's the one you got to take away. Yep. Doing that's difficult. I think I'd probably pressure him pretty heavy if I was going to be Adam Fuller.
Yeah, that's ideal. I mean, That's the plan, right? But I wish those blitzes would get there quicker, man.
Yeah,
It's just they're always a half second too slow, and then we're always like. But like you said, and we were talking about it last week. You got to run what you got to run, and if the plan is to run pressure and blitzes against the guy, like you got to do it. Do you have any more of their offense, Kev? I know we have some stuff.
I think that's most of the offense we got right now.
Okay. Do you have any clips of their defense? I mean, if not, we could probably just at least that now the story on Virginia last year, a lot of exotic like pressure packages, blitzes, a lot of stuff designed to confuse. I mean, I think Bronco Mendenhall's defensive scheme is it at least complex, or does it just look complex because of all the pressure that's coming from all different angles?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't describe it as complex. I would just they're going to bring multiple guys a lot of the time.
What's their base? Are they like a 3-3-5? What do they run out of?
Yeah, what would you describe it as, Kev?
It's almost similar to kind of what Fuller does, where he'll have 3 down linemen and then 1 stand-up lineman.
Yeah.
I think you could technically call it a 4-3 under look, or you could call it a 3-3 or a 3-4, depending. Like you can see it here. There's actually on this play, there's 2 down linemen and 2 stand-up defensive ends. So it's kind of hard to pinpoint. I think I would go with the 4-3 or 4-2-5, whatever you want to call it.
Me too.
Have they had some opt-outs this year? I know they had a 4-star defensive lineman. I think his name was Juwan Briggs. He opted out.
They just lost
guys?
They just lost their best D end to a season-ending injury last week. And I thought I had heard that they've had some other kids defensively opt out. I don't know that for sure though, so I don't want to say yes and be wrong.
Sure.
Yeah. So,
yeah, I mean, I think I would probably call this a 4-3, 4-2-5. I think that's probably accurate, but Kev's going to have, Kev's going to share some of their blitzes, but they like to do a lot of looping. So they like to send one guy and get, linemen's eyes and their hands and their bodies turned, and then they're going to send another guy right in behind him. And that's how they're going to bring and get a lot of their pressure. And they're going to do it from different angles. They're going to do it BC gap. They're going to do it AB gap. They're going to do it from all over the place. And it's going to be tough. It's going to be a challenge, and it's not a strength for. I would imagine that a lot of that's going to be coming right at Bavion Johnson, and
so a lot of interior pressures then.
Yeah, and they're going to struggle with it. He struggled with it last year. He's going to struggle with it again this year because they make you move your feet and communicate. And Florida State's A, young, and B, they're going to target the guys who don't have good feet.
Yeah. So if we look at this play, a good example of what we were just talking about. So you don't know what this play is going to be if you're the quarterback trying to set your protection. You don't know if these linebackers are coming. They're doing a good job of not showing their hands. They kind of like doing this bracket kind of cover 4. It's like a half and half with a cover 4 up top and more of like a man, maybe cover 2 on the bottom, kind of a half and half coverage. But then what they do is this guy is going to look like he's blitzing, and he's going to drop back and be a robber, and he's going to be replaced by this guy. Same with him. He's going to come up and actually catch the running back out of the backfield. So after the snap, so if I bring it to just a second after, it looks to the quarterback initially that he might have 5 or 6 people coming, and he just doesn't see this robber drop back. And so Malik Cunningham, Louisville's quarterback, it looks like he throws pitch and catch to the defender, but it was just a well-designed blitz.
He thought he had the easy dump off because his eyes are to the left with the one-on-one matchup that he's looking at. It's taken away as soon as that safety rolls over and helps. And he never sees like you said, he never sees that end drop into the middle of the field, and he thinks he's got his running back wide open, and he doesn't.
The timing of that play is very impressive to me, just the way that is just ingrained in their muscle memory. Because like you said, you look like, oh, okay, all out blitz. No, boom, the guy jumps out, and he jumps out right at the exact time. So that's, like you said, a hallmark of good coaching and somebody who's really – they're all familiar with the scheme, it looks like.
But what's cool is how they scheme that free rusher open. Is so you get that end who steps at that tackle, which gets him backpedaling and looking for a wide rush.
Right.
You get the defensive tackle crossing the face of the guard, So that gets the guard stepping in, and then you get that looper coming in behind, and he comes untouched. Because you get that guard and tackle going, you get the tackle going out, you get the guard going down in. Watch how he comes. See how he comes wide open.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so
highlighted
they're almost
the wrong
making
linebacker,
like
but
No, the guard actually went outside too, which I don't quite understand that. But either way, like it's interesting. They just do a really good job of scheming guys open. It's fun to watch actually.
Yeah. Well, their timing's impeccable, and then they also scheme the blitz gaps even bigger to make it easier for their guys coming in. So where can Florida State attack this defense? I know you guys were talking about the linebackers. So would this be something to where our running backs could have a good game in the pass catching, a lot of triple option stuff? I think we talked about it offline. Could be a big game for Cameron McDonald. I feel like we call for that every week though. And he gets involved in that first scripted drive, and then they either go away from him it almost feels like Preston Daniels having more catches in the second and third quarter than Cam McDonald, which makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, it really doesn't. Yeah, I mean, I can't, like I said, we talked about it off air, but Cam McDonald's one that I think is a good matchup against their linebackers. I think he's a guy you got to try to get on some crossing stuff, some boot action, get him on crossing routes, and see if you can't get the ball to him that way. And then, I mean, really, I think you're going to have to move the pocket and try to get Jordan running the football, obviously. I think if you could get him one-on-one with these linebackers, you could have a big day. Like Cunningham had a lot of yards rushing when he was able to get out of contain and get out in the open field. The biggest thing is just going to be offensive line holding up against these exotic blitzing schemes, and that's going to be the key. Is Jordan going to have a split second to get out of there, or is he not going to have time? And if he has time, I think he can have a big game. If he doesn't, they're going to be screwed.
Yeah, Bronco likes to bring in these linebackers that are, the more cerebral types, the slower, going to be in the right place and run fits. They're going to do their job, but what ends up happening is they're too slow. You've got to trade off if you're Virginia. You can't just get the smartest, best athletes like Alabama can. So you have to trade off. And these guys are a little bit slower, and it's going to be harder for them to be able to cover outside runs. It's going to be harder for them to be able to get back in coverage. And so in that way, their secondary is put on islands a lot. If you look at their, again, Pro Football Focus scores, their worst – the worst part of their defense is coverage, and it's not even close. And it's because much like our defense, they don't have any linebacker help. So this probably isn't the best example of it, but this is an example of their coverage not being any good. They kind of have Miami here has 4/3. They're going to do like a fake screen here, and then this guy's going to run a hitch, and he's going to run a fade. So a little hitch fade concept that's actually really popular in college football today, a popular man beater. They're kind of in this, I want to call it cover 4, but it's really hard to tell. But basically they're getting this slot receiver manned up on a safety, running a fade, and that's just going to be a mismatch all day.
Gosh, you just let him run right by him.
I'm just trying to think who on our team, who is that guy? Who is our number 3 for Miami now that Tamorrion Terry's gone? Like, who's running that? I guess maybe like an Ontario Wilson out of the slot would do something like that.
It's got to be Pokey. I mean, we've seen Keyshawn Helton.
He's got potential, yeah.
Yeah, well, he doesn't look as explosive as he did pre-injury, obviously. But we've seen them scheme him open on some of these boot plays out of the slot down the field. So I just think that I almost wonder if I think this is a game we're probably going to see a good amount of the Wildcat too. That they're, as much as Virginia is going to match numbers out wide. I'm curious to see if they'll do that when you're in the Wildcat, but they like to match numbers out there. So if you got 3 receivers out there, they're going to put 3 players out there back. They're going to walk back or out corner to safety, and it's going to give you a numbers advantage inside. So I almost wonder how much we're going to see design Travis run. We've seen a lot of that nub side power with him if they get back to doing some of that stuff. A lot of it's going to depend on his health and how much they are going to think that they can rely on him. But how much do you see Corbin back there at quarterback running some of that stuff? There were rumors about Travis Jay a couple weeks ago getting some snaps at quarterback potentially. But look, I mean, we'll see. They've got to find numbers advantages because that's the only way they're going to have success. So, you need to do what you can do to give them enough of a threat that you're going to throw the ball out wide and make them continue to match numbers out there, but also get a favorable box. So we're going to see how they scheme that up.
With the way our quarterback depth was looking coming into Clemson, there was definitely a plan for Travis Jay to be the emergency guy. So maybe that works in our favor with that game being postponed. Postponed. Like you said, maybe see Travis Jay out there for some snaps. I don't know how healthy the running back room is. I mean, that's a big question mark that decides a lot of that. Like, how's Webb? How's Tuafili looking? I don't really know. I don't think that their status has been clearly defined. Have you guys seen anything?
Doesn't talk about injuries.
No, it's impossible to know.
I mean, it knows what illness was. So if it was COVID related, but they were both on the sideline, so it leads me to believe. Well, Webb played, so it leads me to believe it wasn't COVID related. So we'll, I would imagine they're probably all good to go. But I know that there was concern that Jordan wasn't even going to play against Clemson. So you were talking Tate Runamaker, and then what?
So Kev, we were talking about Virginia's problems with the second level of their defense, with the athleticism of their linebackers. Florida State's got problems at the second level. Different problems. Of course, Florida State's problems are unique. But in saying that, can Florida State attack Virginia's linebackers in the same way that some teams have attacked our linebackers, maybe with mismatches in the slot, posts over the middle, some of the stuff that NC State did to us? Can we do that to Virginia?
Yeah, I think AB nailed it when he talked about Cam McDonald. You need a big game out of someone in the middle, and I think between him and Wilson, those are really the only two options you have. Only two people that can run a good enough route and can catch consistently enough for you guys to really punish them for having those slower linebackers. And you said it earlier. I like the idea of putting running backs in the running game, and clearly Louisville likes that idea as well. And you can see that Virginia was ready for it, but you got to try it again. You got to maybe look to do out routes. That was probably a choice route. And he's just kind of reading where the running back runs. And it just worked out that Virginia called the perfect play at the perfect time. But those are kind of things you need to look for. Getting the running backs involved, getting the ball over the middle, making the throws easy for Jordan Travis, and just trying to chunk the ball down the field.
Well, it's a well-coached team. Luck. I do put value in Mike Norvell and Kenny Dillingham's ability to get the mismatches that they want, at least at the beginning of the game. Now, obviously, we see that erode over time. But I'm fairly hopeful. Kev, do you have any more film to kind of look over before we kind of wrap this bad boy up?
That's most of what we got. Yep.
Okay. So I think right now as we stand, the spread's at Virginia, I think, is like a 10-point favorite. Adam first, and then Kevin. Let's just talk about the winnability of this game, and how do you feel about that spread? Do you feel like that's pretty accurate? Like, how do you feel? What's your gut feeling on this game for Florida State?
I mean, how do I feel? I feel like it needs to be 21 or so. I mean, I just don't, with where the program is and where the roster is right now, and I don't want to take anything away from those guys and what they're trying to do. So I don't want to sound negative towards them, but I just don't think you're in a position to win games. And I know everybody's like, oh, we got Virginia. We need to get out of that mindset because we're worse than Virginia and we're maybe worse than Duke next week or the following week. So I'm not in a good place. If I was setting the spread, it'd be 17-20 somewhere in there probably. And
okay.
I don't think it's a game they're going to win. I don't think that they can match the experience that Virginia's going to bring to the table. And that's a big game. That's a big thing in college football.
You feel about the same, Kev, or different?
Yeah, and we got to remember that we're starting 60-70% freshmen and sophomores.
Yeah. Scratch.
They're
ground
babies out there.
Level. Yes.
Yeah. I gotta reiterate to you, 18-year-olds are playing 22-year-olds, and you're expecting them to win. Even talented 18-year-olds lose that more times than not. That's still a pretty big gap. You're still putting on weight. You're still growing, especially along the offensive and defensive lines. Those younger guys really can use that time to develop. And so you just can't expect them to be able to match up on every level, 5 stars are 5 stars because they're 18-year-olds that can go out and beat a 22-year-old. And unfortunately, Florida State doesn't have a roster full of freshmen and sophomore 5 stars. So we're not going to be able to go out and beat fellow 3 and 4 stars who are 4 years older than us.
A team that's almost in some ways the mirror opposite of what Florida State is right now. You have an experienced, disciplined, well-coached team, cohesive systems in both the offensive and defensive side. Guys that you said aren't going to blow you away like on the field. Like you said, the PFF scores are pedestrian, but they're always in the right place, and they're going to give you a lot to think about. They've got a playbook that's really expansive, and all of those things are kind of the opposite of what Florida State is. Young, new in new systems, not really confident, playbook very shallow, getting by on the athleticism of like the Jordan Travises on our team. But we'll see. This could be the program's in a weird spot after that whole Clemson stuff, man. Like I'd really like us to go out there and just slap Bronco around. Just pimp slap him a little bit, it'd be fun. It'd be fun. Good for morale. It'd be good for us. I'd like to talk about it.
Yeah, it'd be nice to talk about a win.
All right, guys. Well, I got anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, screw Dabo Swinney.
Always, forever, it's a mood here on the triple option. Listen, screw Dabo, screw him to death. He's terrible. Also,
my boy Mike Leach came up short when I needed him most this past Saturday. You just got to air that out. People got to know I'm upset. Georgia was about to lose. That's always a good day for me.
Oh.
Listen, he's got Will Rogers back there, cowboy, gunslinger, pirate. This is a pro air raid podcast, no matter what that surly bald man that accompanied us has to say. So once again, screw Dabo, go Mike Norvell, go Mike Leach. And this is the triple option. Thank you for listening to us. Please subscribe to the X's and Noles YouTube channel. Tell a friend. Have that friend tell another friend. Have that friend tell another friend like you were on a multi-level marketing scheme on Facebook and you're trying to sell supplements or leggings or makeup. Just pretend it's the triple option pyramid multi-level marketing scheme. Tell everybody you know.
Oils are big.
Subscribe. Exactly. We love you guys. We'll be here next week.
Talking actual football.
Maybe. It's 2020. See you guys. Never stop chopping.
Good old.
Air raid.
Wing T.